Welcome to another decimal wear video tutorial on the ROMS system. Today's a beginner level 1 looking at how to make regatta entries. Probably the biggest surprise that people have or people discover when they find out things about ROMS is that anybody with a login to the system can in fact create regatta entries. So to put this another way, entries are not restricted to purely club and school administrators. That's probably one of the biggest misconceptions we've found. Sure, we expect some clubs will want to centralise their regatta entry process, but for some of the bigger clubs looking to revolutionise how they process their entries, they really should consider the different processes involved and try and make life a bit simpler. Of course, even though your club might continue to centralise things, mistakes do get made. Your entry might have been missed altogether, or perhaps a last minute change or illness or something like that might mean that additional entries should be created. If this is the case, there's no reason why you should miss out on racing. There's really the coach or the athlete can both look after this themselves to make sure you get on the water. We highly recommend that clubs and schools have a number of people making entries, if only for your own sanity. Likewise, we recommend that clubs and schools have a number of users with competition administration rights, so as to process crew authorisations, scratchings, seat changes and more. Schools present a slightly different structure. One idea we like is to have a person or a couple of people per year group processing entries specific to that year group with an overall master in charge handling oversight. That really should lighten the load on the master of rowing. So this tutorial will cover off a bit of ground with regatta entries. We are looking at a couple of other more advanced tutorials where things like squatters templates, how to process scratching or a crew change, regatta invoicing and so forth. But for now, let's get logged in so we can start creating entries. Website roms.rowingaustralia.com.au. Let's get logged in. So username and a case-sensitive password. If you ever forget your password there and remember your username, that will email it to you. If you're really stuck, contact your state association. That'll help you out. So let's get logged in. First off, let's change to a club profile. First time in and you've been given access to a club, you'll find more club details under your profile there. And now note up the top here, it's me acting on behalf of Mercantile Rowing Club. Next trick we need is a regatta to actually enter. So heading over to the rowing dashboard, you'll see here that we've got a number of regattas accepting entries with the convenient close time here for you. You don't want to leave this to the last minute. Sometimes you might have a little bit of data that's not quite right. Somebody might have transferred in or out of your club. There could be any number of small things there that might prevent an entry, so it's best to get them in early. Let's try somewhere a bit sunnier. Now you note I clicked on, just go back one, you note I clicked on the icon next to the regatta name to go straight to the entry form. I can actually go to the regatta itself and explore more on news, documents, dates and so forth, but let's go straight to the entry form there. Now let's choose an event. Let's pick the women's double scull. And as I said, this is on behalf of Mercantile we're making this entry, so Mercantile will own the entry. And that's the setting down here. You might be able to, depending on your profile, have additional clubs or schools in there which you can use to override the entry. The form comes in with some basic details about the event number, age category if it's been set, gender. We've got some pricing data here so you know what you're going to be paying, an average score range, composite settings and so forth. Looking further down, boat allocation. So if you happen to know the boat that will be used, you can there's a report back on the regatta where you can get a list of boats and the order in which they're happening. So we put the boat in here, and we've basically got 2 seats to fill for a double scull. Typically the state association will mandate that a seat is filled. Some regattas you could possibly not be required to enter seat data, so it's just one entry from Mercantile would be going in with the seats empty. But 99% of the time we expect seats to be filled. So choose a seat. It defaults at the pointy end and works its way back. So let's find an athlete. You can set some search modifiers here, depending on what you're trying to achieve. Typically, it will default to your event gender and also your club. But if you're looking for someone outside your club, you may have to drop that one down there and switch to all rowers, and that will search the entire country. So let's get an athlete list. So I just chose the letter A there. Everyone with the letter A will be there. You can obviously narrow that down somewhat depending on how much typing you wish to do. Now let's go back one. Let's go back to A. Now you'll note, for example, there's two columns, one for school, one for club. This allows you to set which organisation the athlete will be racing for as part of this entry. Now, the way to think of it is, what zooty will they be wearing? So we're obviously entering for mercantile, so we want them to be wearing mercantile zoot suits. So we click mercantile, and that's filled in our bow seat up here. And stroke seat, next one on the list. Let's choose the letter B, and Sarah Banting is going to be rowing for us today. So the boat's filled. Now we can scroll down and create entry, or alternatively, there are a couple more settings up here. This setting here is typically more important for the schools. You might have an athlete with some troubles at home or something, and we don't want to display the girl's name as part of the public results system. So you can actually set that to no, and only logged in users will see the girl's name as part of the event list. Now the Google and other search indexes won't be able to find that name as a result then. As soon as you miss one, of course, like if there's a point in time in the future where, like a national championships or something, her profile will show up. Google's very efficient at that sort of thing, but as a general rule, you can override those things there. Pass cost onto athlete. Now as I said, we've got another tutorial on regatta accounting, but basically the state host will invoice mercantile for this entry, or at least the seats within this entry, depending on the regatta setup. And this would then create an invoice from mercantile to the athlete. So more on that in another tutorial, but typically that's going to remain ticked. And if we had different clubs involved in this, this list here would reflect that, and you would be able to specify exactly which club you want to be invoiced for this seat. Now that's as far as it need be go for regatta entries. It's not particularly complicated. If you're trying to do something outside the age category range or the score range or gender, you will notice certain things happen. So if I try this, try to put a gender in here, gender is incorrect, and we get some flashing warnings. So we really need the female rower there. Done. So let's create that entry. Entry was successful. Now, if you wish to enter coach data, you can. If the athlete has a coach specified within the system, they will default in here. Otherwise, we can go looking for a coach, for example. So let's add Phil here as a coach. That's that done, and I can now update that entry and make another entry. Or I can skip coaches if I didn't have any of that data, for example. Looking further down though, you can actually record all of the rigging data that you might have for this particular entry. If you're lucky enough to have a boatman, you could technically print that out and give it to them, and turn up on Saturday or Sunday and your boat's all ready to go. Alternatively, coaches, great resource just for monitoring what you've done in the past. So you might have you win a race 6 months later, similar conditions like a nice tailwind or something. You're thinking to yourself, oh, what was the setting for that boat? If the data was here, you'd be able to pull it up and track it down. Now, I mean, this data is staying permanently within ROMS, so we've got something like 185,000 entries in the system presently. That's a lot of rigging data there that you'd be able to reflect on, and next year you get the year 9 quad again. What did I do last year? Those sorts of questions can all be quickly answered in here. You can mark that as a public access. We do default to private. You don't necessarily want your competitors stealing all your winning ideas, so we do usually leave it as private, and that's effectively it. So let's just quickly have a look at the entry. There it is there, successfully made. We can make changes up to the close of entry. We can edit the rigging details, print it, and so forth. I'm going to delete this entry because it's real data. Let's have another go. There we go. And that's that entry gone. So that's the basics of the entry system. Entries closed. There's an authorization window. From that point on, entries are typically scratched or otherwise. Getting entries in isn't all that challenging. There's a few options there. We'd love to see you try. Well, thanks for dropping by for another video from Decimalware on ROMS, and hope to talk to you soon.